Damon's out of town. You know what that means. We party! We are live from Studio K. Live. Studio K, Studio K, Studio K. Damon usually does this. But I got Justin Spears on the AZ Wildcats podcast with me today, ladies and gentlemen. And we are presented by our friends over at Branded Bills. If you want to get some Branded Bills, use our promo code of BBPHNX to get a little percentage off your next order of the finest headwear in the game. And that code is above my head the entirety of the show. You know I said that we party because Damon is out of town, but that's just because, I don't know. You got to mix it up. You got to party to keep from crying. Got to laugh to keep from crying because I do miss my guy Damon, but he will be live with us Saturday for the post game because he's not going out of town for no reason, chat. He's going out of town to cover and be at Folsom Field for Arizona versus Colorado. But we'll talk to Damon and talk about Damon a little bit later in this show. Let's talk to Justin Spears. Justin, how are we doing on this fine Thursday afternoon?
Good, man. I'm excited for this week. I will also be in Boulder for the Arizona-Colorado game at Folsom Field. So it's going to be a fun one. The last time I was in Boulder, which was my first trip to Boulder, really the first time I'd ever been in the Denver area. It's a nice city. I love Denver, especially when you're getting there really in like October. And the game against Arizona, it's going to be at 5 o'clock. So it's going to be an evening game, but it's not going to be too late. You know what I mean? And it's not too late in the year to where it's just freezing cold. So I am going to be wearing a jacket. I will be prepared for the colder temperatures because I'm definitely sure it's colder in Denver than it is in Tucson, Arizona right now. But, the last time I was in Boulder, which was the first time, I saw Tetairoa McMillan making some sweet one-handed grabs. I saw Tyler Loop knocking down the field goal late in that game, 24 yards, easy chip shot for him. I mean, he can make that in his sleep. And Arizona walked away with a walk-off win. That was one of the games that was a part of that winning streak there towards the end of the 2023 season. That was a special moment for Arizona football, and I'm excited to go back to the scene of the crime where Arizona had a magical victory against Colorado. And maybe it's a little bit different than last year's result in Tucson, Arizona, which led to the Buffaloes just absolutely smacking Arizona. So, but to answer your question, Kev, I'm good. Thank you.
Looking good, looking sharp too. Look good, feel good, write good, report good. Is that how it works, Justin?
Yeah, usually, I mean, you would think, oh, Justin's in his reporter clothes, right? No, I was over at the Arizona Bowl kickoff luncheon over at the Tucson Convention Center, and Brian Urlacher, Chicago Bears legend, Pro Football Hall of Famer, he was the keynote speaker, and it was great to sit there and chat with him. Fun fact about Brian Urlacher is when he was at New Mexico, he was roommates with Danny Gonzalez. They spent a lot of time together. Whenever they would go on the road, they would be roommates with each other in the hotel rooms. And so Danny G, Brian Urlacher, they go way back. And he had a lot of cool stories to share in regards to Danny G. And then when he was with the Chicago Bears, he was teammates with Lance Briggs, who is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Arizona Wildcats of all time. And really, and like I said, in my opinion, one of the more underrated players to come out of Arizona. Like when you talk about NFL guys, right? You always talk about Gronkowski and Nick Foles and Teddy Bruschi, but Lance Briggs was that dude. And so I had a lot of fun watching him growing up, and him and Brian Urlacher, they were tandem at linebacker for 10 years. So he had a lot of cool things to say about Lance Briggs. And then also Bobby Wade, Arizona's wide receivers coach, he was a receiver for the Chicago Bears at that time that Brian Urlacher was there. So he loves Tucson, Arizona. His only bowl game at New Mexico was against the Arizona Wildcats in the Insight.com Bowl in 1997. Where Arizona hosted a bowl game in Tucson and they beat New Mexico. So yeah, it was cool to see Brian Urlacher, and that's why I'm all dressed up, is because there was some fancy dinner at the Tucson Convention Center, and unfortunately, I had to put on pants. So
Our guy Max in the chat says Briggs, the ultimate alumni member. We do love some Lance Briggs here on this podcast. What up to everybody in the chat? Thank you all for tuning in today, and thank you all for joining me, like Justin. And we are going to talk a lot of Arizona versus Colorado today, despite being 4 days from NCAA basketball tipping off. We're going to get to that a little bit tomorrow, and also obviously Monday. Sweet, sweet Florida game day Monday. But today, Justin, I would be totally off base to not start this podcast by talking about a tweet that you put out routinely, a tweet that you always put out, that this time got a little bit more motion than usual. You put out the availability report for Arizona versus Colorado, and the differences were what sparked any sort of controversy surrounding it, Justin. People were accusing Arizona of pretty much cheating in a lot of ways by not fully displaying the availability report and fully disclosing players who are out. Can you kind of clear up some of the hullabaloo going on around this right now?
Yeah. So, and again, this is the initial availability report. So, there could be, another section added that's, questionable or probable or something like that, right? Like last week, I forget if Chris Hunter was on the initial availability report, and then I think he, might have popped up on like the Thursday one or something like that. But they, that's something that they monitor. Chris Hunter ended up playing for Arizona in that game against Houston. So just to kind of clear things up here, so Arizona is not cheating. As a matter of fact, their availability report is based on the guys who are not out for the season. So if you look back on previous availability reports, it's got guys like Dejon Hinton, it's got guys like Kellen Ford at tight end, and Tyler Powell, Trey Smith now at defensive end. And those guys are all out for the season. And so there's actually, a policy that the Big 12 introduced to where, if guys are out for the season, you could just go ahead and just stop including them on the availability report. Like, this is all about the guys who can play this season. And if they're out for this week, then you make them out. If they're questionable, you make them questionable. So I think Arizona was just kind of tired of putting freshmen and Trey Smith and Tyler Powell, guys that aren't going to play this year because they're out for the year. They just felt like, hey, let's just clear up space. Let's just kind of really only focus on this game. And that's why you only see left guard Jordan Brown listed as the player that's out. Suffered another injury, kind of unfortunate for him. He's going to be a really good offensive lineman for Arizona when he's healthy. But that's why they only had him out. So just to clarify, Arizona is not cheating. And there are also some other teams that are also doing the same thing.
Yeah, but if there were a team to cheat, maybe it'd be the team with the most infractions in NCAA history, and that might be a team located in Tempe, Arizona. But I'll leave that at that. Justin, like you said, Arizona is following the guidelines here with the availability report. It'd be kind of redundant to put Trey Smith on there every single week, considering he's going to be out for the remainder of the season. I know that you see that in the pros with like Jason Tatum listed on every single injury report, but he's going to eventually come off of that injury report, maybe at the end of the year. I don't know, maybe sooner.
Yeah.
But for example, right, that's just an example, right? But if you have Trey Smith and you know he's going to be out for the year, you don't necessarily have to list him on there as well. Is there anything you wanted to note for Colorado's side of the availability report, Justin?
Yes. Colorado, the biggest one, in my opinion, is left guard Xavier Hill. He's listed as out, But his backup, Yaya Atia, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's number 59. He is his backup, or at least he's listed as his backup on the official Colorado depth chart. So the left guard situation, a little bit interesting, but Yaya is expected to play. He's listed as probable. That's really the biggest one there, that left guard spot. But outside of that, I think Colorado, I mean, really kind of surprised with how much pressure they gave up against Utah, because their offensive line, those are some big guys. I mean, Jordan Seaton at left tackle, in my opinion, might be the best left tackle in the Big 12 right now. He's legit. I mean, he's going to be an NFL player, and he's going to be playing this game for a long time. So they have some size up front, and I'm wondering, how is Arizona going to figure out ways to add pressure and get to the quarterback? But the availability report, the one that people should pay attention to, is at that left guard spot.
You mentioned the pressure that Utah was able to get against Colorado last week. 7 sacks against Colorado for Utah last week, and it does not help that Colorado fails to run the ball with any level of proficiency throughout the course of the season, right? Like, you have a Arizona team. This is, I guess, where I want to start in terms of actually previewing the matchup with you, Justin. You have an Arizona team led by Danny Gonzalez on the defensive side of the ball. He is a man known for his creative and disguised pressures. Do you think that is where success starts for Arizona this week, pressuring the quarterback, Caden Salter, putting him under pressure, putting him on the grass?
Yeah, totally. And, I think that Malachi Bailey, this guy was a master at getting to the quarterback when he was at Alcorn State. So I would like to see him get going and him get to the backfield. But then again, Malachi Bailey is, playing off the edge, and he's going to be going up against Jordan Seaton. And he's going to be going up against, that Colorado offensive lineman that has just some really big size up front. So I'm wondering, how they're going to get to the quarterback. Maybe it's not Malachi Bailey. Maybe it's the creativity of using players like Riley Wilson and Chase Kennedy, these outside linebackers that you're using as edge rusher types, but also guys that can get out into space and cover the pass, or, drop it back in the flat and whatnot. So I think that this could be a really big game for Riley Wilson and Chase Kennedy, and also the other Arizona linebackers as well. But the thing that, Arizona really needs to prioritize, and, easier said than done, right? But missed tackles has been a problem for this team. And you just go back and you look at BYU, you look at Houston, a lot of breakdowns. I mean, that first touchdown by Amari Thomas, he broke tackles from both Dalton Johnson and Traydon Stukes. I mean, those are two of arguably Arizona's best open field tacklers. And Genesis Smith as well, he leads the team in missed tackles. Him and Max Harris both have, I think, 15 missed tackles this season. So those guys definitely need to step up as far as tackling and making sure that there's not a lot of yak yards, because, they're in position to make plays, but they've struggled to really tackle. And Genesis Smith and Dalton Johnson and Max Harris and those guys, when the ball carrier gets to that second level area, you got to make sure that you're getting into the ground there. And that way you're not allowing the other team to set up these third and shorts or even pick up first down. So I think tackling has to be really a thing that Arizona needs to fix. And the coaches have certainly emphasized that this week.
I don't know what they're going to do to stop the rushing attack of Colorado, but hopefully they don't have to work that hard, because Colorado cannot rush the ball. We've talked about it to start the show a little bit. They're second to last in the Big 12 conference, and in a conference that includes Oklahoma State. Being second to last is practically being below last in that regard, but they only average about 130 rushing yards per game, and that is in totality. That's not just the running backs. That's not just the quarterback, Caden Salter. That is both units put together, only averaging 130 yards. However, Damon, I will say this. Or not Damon. Wow. See, I'm sick. Mentally, I'm still sick. Physically, I'm healthy. But mentally, still sick. It's okay. Justin knows I got a lot of love for my guy, Justin Spears. But, Justin, this is what worries me the most about this Colorado matchup in all seriousness. Caden Salter's legs. He's not a guy that's known for running the ball. In fact, if you go across the nation and say, what is Caden Salter's best talent, you're not going to get a lot of people saying, gashing the defense like Lamar Jackson. However, He has double-digit carries in 4 games this season to go along with 5 rushing touchdowns. And he also has over 40 plus yards on the ground in another set of 4 games. Arizona has allowed season highs in attempts and yardages to both Wegman and Bachmeier. Do you think this is a situation where Caden Salter could get his legs under him, pun very much intended, against Arizona this weekend? Or is Danny Gonzalez going to finally fix that quarterback power problem that's been haunting him ever since the last 2 losses for Arizona?
Yeah, Deion Sanders was talking about his team giving up the blueprint. He's like, y'all gave up the blueprint. Blitz them. Throw everything at him. Do everything. That's my primetime impression. It's not the best. I'm still working on it.
I haven't left the facility since we lost to Utah. I haven't even been to my McMansion.
Everybody's getting BBLs. Everybody wants the quick fix. And everybody talk about
BBLs and veneers. That's this team right now.
But I digress. No, Deion Sanders talked about the blueprint after that game against Utah and how Utah was just blitzing them. And that's what people should expect moving forward whenever, Colorado takes the field. Well, I mean, Arizona kind of also gave up the blueprint to beat the Wildcats, right? If you got a powerful, strong quarterback that can run, then, you're going to put together an offense that, Arizona simply can't stop. I mean, look at the last 2 weeks. The first 5 games, 488 rushing yards. And then the last 2 games, they gave up 490. So they gave up more rushing yards in the last 2 games than the first 5 games of the season. So that is a red flag, but that wasn't a red flag at the start of the season, right? I thought Arizona did a real nice job of stopping the run. It's just only been an issue the last 2 weeks. Now, the thing about BYU and Houston that's different than Colorado, and you mentioned it, Kevin, that Bear Bachmeier and Connor Wegman are big SOBs, man. I mean, those guys are 20 to 30 pounds heavier than Caden Salter. They're big, powerful guys that are going to run through your face. Caden Salter is not that. But with that being said, he has shown you he can break off for runs of 20-plus yards. I think he's got like a long of like 34-yard run or something like that this year. I got to double check, but he has shown he can use his athleticism and break off for some chunk runs. He's not going to run through you and run, quarterback power like Connor Wegman and Bear Bachmeier, but he is going to use his athleticism to try and maybe beat you to the sideline and try to get that edge. So it's going to be a little bit of a different attack, but I expect, hey, the blueprint's out there, right? I expect Colorado to be like, hey, let's see if Arizona has learned from the last 2 weeks, and let's see if they can stop the quarterback run. And it would not surprise me if we saw Caden Salter, start to have some quarterback design runs for him.
If you had to, make a choice right now today on it, do you think Arizona solves that and stops any attempts at quarterback powers or design quarterback runs with Caden Salter, or do you think it will kind of rear its ugly head again for Arizona?
Well, I mean, Danny Gonzalez, if we're judging based off of his press conference, he said, we're going to have an answer for that. Like, we'll have a plan for that. So Arizona is fully prepared for the quarterback run. They're fully prepared for Colorado to try to see if they can get the ground game going. I mean, this is a terrible rushing team. And if you look at Colorado, really over the last few years, this has not been a running football team. They have not really been a running football team since, oh my goodness, they had a really good running back a few years ago who played a lot of snaps. I remember Philip Lindsay was a great running back for the Colorado Buffaloes, but there was another running back after him that was really good. But anyways, I digress. They have not been a good running football team over the last few years. And so I feel like if Arizona can just not allow them to feel confident that they can run the football, if they can make the Buffaloes one-dimensional, that plays into Arizona's favor because, okay, Colorado wants to sling the football. Well, Arizona's got some really good defensive backs and Genesis Smith and Dalton Johnson and Traden Stukes. I think the cornerbacks have been really impressive this season. Michael Dansby has the most atrocious PI calls I've ever seen against him. I feel bad for the young man. Javion Cole, I think, has done a lot of good things this year. Marquise Gross-Killebrew He's got his good moments, right? And I just think that Aiden Garnes, forgot to mention him. So they legitimately have 4 cornerbacks that they can rely on and switch if they need to. So if Colorado wants to throw the football, Arizona's like, all right, come on, bring it on. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of maybe Genesis Smith blitzing, because if you recall that last drive against Houston, or not the last drive, the second to last drive, where Genesis got in the backfield and batted down a pass and almost had an interception. I'm telling you what, it's going to happen. Whether it's this week or in future weeks, Genesis Smith is going to pressure the quarterback, jump up, and make this crazy catch, come down with an interception, maybe take it for a pick six, or just have a cool play that he can show everybody. He is so close, and I feel like Genesis Smith, he's due for one of his classic Genesis Smith breakout games to where he's got a bunch of tackles, maybe some pass breakups, and maybe a takeaway or two.
Genesis Smith, who just got, I think, a +9 boost to his rating in EA College Football 26 for those that care. He honestly, I think that this is like something that Damon and I really keyed in on half-heartedly, right? We were half serious, half joking about it, but like him being that rated him being rated that low in the College Football 26 game was kind of indicative of how underrated he was nationally preseason. And it feels like as he has started to get some NFL draft love, his rating in the game has increased. So it feels like maybe tracking the ratings in the game has a little bit of a through line to actual ratings and perceptions in real life. However, I do think that Genesis Smith will be very impactful in this one as well, Justin. And I want to continue to talk a little bit more about Caden Salter in this one and how much he's actually even going to play, because apparently Colorado might do a little bit of a 2-quarterback thing. And you know what I say? If you have multiple quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. And we're going to talk about all that and more on the other side of this break here with our guy Justin Spears on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Leave a like, drink your water, and most importantly, don't go anywhere. Now, folks, you know the purple bag that is synonymous with our friends over at Crown Royal. And on November 16th, the Crown Royal Purple Bag Project will be at State Farm Stadium, and that is huge because driven by Crown Royal's ethos of generosity, the Purple Bag Project was born, turning their iconic purple bags into care packages for soldiers and veterans. Now, I know every time I pick up some Crown Royal, I keep the bag. I genuinely do, because I feel like it's just too high quality of an item to go to waste, right? And that is kind of where this comes from, right? You want to use these, reuse these, put it to a good cause, and there's no better cause than helping our soldiers and veterans. Since 2010, Crown Royal packed and distributes over 1 million purple bags and counting to soldiers and veterans, providing them with essential care and comfort from home. Consumers in attendance on November 16th will get a chance to pack their very own Crown Royal Purple Bag care package with snacks and handwritten cards as well. So please check this out. It's a very good cause and some very cool bags. For more information, visit crownroyal.com/purple bag project. And if you want to look cool on November 16th, pulling up to State Farm Stadium, there's no better way to do that than with our friends over at Shady Rays. Now, my grandfather, who I don't know if he's in the chat today or not, he recently took me up on this promo code because he had eye surgery, so now he needs to protect his eyes a little bit in the sun. So what'd he say? He said, you know what? My grandson, he has a promo code with the most stylish, most functional, most favorable sunglasses in the game, Shady Rays. And there he is in the chat. He's going to provide a testimonial, I'm sure, about how awesome his sunglasses are. But you know that moment where you have these awesome sunglasses and you're on a golf course. I know Spears knows that moment. And you forget your sunglasses somewhere. You don't know where they are. You need them in this moment, but you don't have them. How do you remedy this? You use their lost and broken replacement policy. It doesn't matter how you lost them. It doesn't matter how you broke them. Shady Rays will replace them for you for free. Just head over to shadyrays.com. Send them your confirmation number, and they will remedy that situation for you. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to give you 35% off of polarized sunglasses with our promo code PHNX at shadyrays.com. So head over to shadyrays.com to try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Whew, Justin Spears, we are back from the ad break talking a little bit of Arizona Wildcats football. But before we do that, please, everybody in the chat, leave a like on this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports. We cover all things Arizona here, including, look at that. I mean, leave a like for that. This is celebratory. This is ceremonial. I absolutely love it.
Let's
It's not
go,
even
man.
Fired Up Friday, and our guy is literally bringing the fireworks. But we're talking about Caden Salter in Colorado, Justin. Do you anticipate Caden Salter to get the majority of the snaps in this game? Do you think that Dion's going to have a short leash with Salter? And can you kind of try to provide any sort of clarity as to what the hell is going on with Colorado's quarterback room? Because I've been saying it all year. If you have multiple quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. And it seems like you went out and spent a lot of time, effort, and intention on getting one of the top transfer quarterbacks in Caden Salter just to bench him for the guy that was on the roster last year and was playing
Yeah,
backup to the backup. So can you please
yeah,
explain this to me?
yeah. So I think that this quarterback situation, I really think that they're just trying to find a spark, and they're just kind of desperate right now. Caden Salter came in as what some could say a highly touted transfer, just because I mean, if you look at his numbers at Liberty, he put up some insane stats. So we kind of knew we were under the impression that when he went to Colorado that he was going to be the successor to Shador Sanders. But he's in a new system under Pat Shermer, and you could definitely tell there are some growing pains. Colorado is without their top four receivers from a year ago. They lost a lot of firepower in that room. I think Amari Miller is a name that people should look out for and is a legitimate wide receiver for Colorado. But I mean, they lost a lot of just really good players in that room. So there's just a lot of newness to this offense, and everybody's trying to figure each other out. But I think at this point, it's kind of inexcusable to, not understand the offense right now. And I think, Colorado's offense in some ways is broken. You could, put some of that blame on Caden Salter. You can also put a lot of that blame on Pat Shermer, the offensive coordinator. So, yeah, I think that Colorado, they want to spice things up a little bit. So it would not surprise me if we saw two quarterbacks play on Saturday. And you know what? They also have another quarterback too that no one really seems to be talking about. And it almost seems like Deion Sanders is doing this on purpose. This is like a chess move. He's like, I want everybody to be talking about Caden Salter and Staub, but no one's be talking about my superstar freshman. And Julian, no, seriously, Julian Lewis, 5-star player, was committed to USC, and he's this freshman that's just kind of chilling there. And I'm looking at Julian Lewis's stats, and so far he's only played in one game this year. So are we at a point right now where they're just like, okay, maybe we put out Julian Lewis and he could still preserve a year of eligibility, right? We can, he could play in 3 more games, 4 if Colorado somehow, makes a bowl game. So, could we see Julian Lewis? I don't know. But right now, my money is on Caden Salter. He's the more experienced guy, the guy that has a lot of college reps. And, they're also playing at home too. And, one thing about Colorado and Caden Salter, they play well when they're at Folsom Field. So my money's on Caden Salter, but it should be interesting. We could see Ryan Staub. We could see Julian Lewis. I don't know. We'll see.
What does Dion call him? The vanilla MLK or something?
Does he really?
No, genuinely, he called him like white
The vanilla
Martin
Martin
Luther.
Luther King?
Ooh, I think it was Martin Luther Staub. I think that's what he called him. I think that was it.
Martin?
I don't think it was like vanilla anything or nothing like that. But I think he did call him Martin Luther Staub. I'm gonna look that up here real quick. But one thing you mentioned there is the raucous environment at Folsom Field, and I feel like it's kind of become a more talked about thing with Dion kind of coming over there and putting his fingerprint on that program. But it's really a underrated road environment to have to go in and play at Colorado, right? Brent Brennan, we have a fire. I wonder who made it. Fire social graphic coming out tomorrow about Brent Brennan's road record. The record itself is not fire, but the work I put into the graphic was fire. He's not good on the road, Justin. I think he's just 1-6 at
Yeah.
Arizona. And his record at San Jose State, for a variety of reasons. I'm not trying to pile on. You're playing a lot of high-quality programs in the non-conference at San Jose State. But even in the conference, his record on the road drops off precipitously. So do you think that this is a situation where Brent Brennan can kind of get the monkey off his back, so to speak, and get a road victory? In Colorado is no easy feat. Do you think Brent Brennan can get it done?
Yeah, and not only for Brent Brennan's sake, but also Arizona's sake. Like they can just finally move forward because they haven't celebrated a road victory since they beat Utah last September. So every single time these guys go on the road, more often than not, they're coming back home to Tucson with an L. And if you look at it, like outside of the game against Houston, all of those losses, they're getting killed. I mean, they're getting killed by 3-4 touchdowns. Heck, look at that game against UCF last year where they lost by 44 points. So Arizona has struggled a lot on the road. And, if you look at the common denominator, well, defensively, they struggle to stop the run. And they also struggle to run the football themselves. But I think they did a much better job of getting the run game going last game against Houston. I mean, it could be better, right? But Kedrick Reesano found the end zone. Trey Spivey, I thought, had a nice jet sweep touchdown. So you're starting to see Seth Daigie's creativity in the run game and in his play calling. So I think that this week against a struggling Colorado team, I mean, if you look at Colorado's weaknesses, it really helps out Arizona. And I think that, the assumption is that Arizona is going to just run the football against Colorado because they've got the worst rushing defense in the Big 12. And I don't think it's necessarily that simple because, we thought that against Oklahoma State, because remember, the Cowboys had an awful rushing defense going into that game against Arizona. Well, the assumption was that Arizona was going to run against Oklahoma State. And what happened? Oklahoma State put 8 guys in the box, and then it opened up the passing game for Noah Fifita, and that's how he was able to throw 5 touchdowns and become the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. So you got to really take what the defense gives you, and Colorado has a bad rushing defense. If they don't really change anything and, they have a light box, then go for it. Try to utilize Ismail Mahdi. Try to utilize Kedrick Reesano. Get those receivers into jet sweep situations. I would love to see Java Watley get a jet sweep and see what he can do out in space. So I think that if they can get the run game going, and then if Colorado's stacking up the box, if Noah Fifita can continue to be Noah Fifita like we've seen in Big 12 play, I think that Arizona is going to walk out of Boulder with the victory. And that's going to really kind of change the complexion of the current part of the season right now, because we all know the vibes are bad, right? They lost 2 games in gut-wrenching fashion, games that they should have won. But Arizona's 4-3 right now. If they can take advantage of this Colorado team that's just coming off an ass kicking against Utah. Remember, one team was on a bye week. One was just in a slugfest against Utah in Salt Lake City. And Colorado's struggling right now. Arizona has homecoming next week against KU. They're probably not thinking about that game, but just from our perspective, the vibes are totally different for that homecoming game when you've got 5 wins and all you got to do is just win that game, which is very winnable for Arizona against Kansas, and then you become bowl eligible. I mean, conceivably, Arizona could be bowl eligible by the time we do our weekly podcast in a couple of Thursdays. And again, that's all Arizona fans want to see. But man, it starts on Saturday against the Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder. They have to win this game. And if they do, it should set up the Wildcats nicely the rest of the way.
I love that you mentioned the bowl eligibility bit right there, because I also think that Arizona can go in and get the road victory in something that Brent Brennan has really not been able to do very much in his time at Arizona, is go on the road and actually get a road victory. But I think what's important there, what's key, is the vibes for the fans. Because I think in the locker room, there's a lot of, I would assume, frustration, a little bit of disappointment in the results. Yeah. But I think the work, I think it's proven that it's been successful, right? It's not been a perfect season on either side of the ball, but you have a first-year Big 12 coordinator in Seth Daigie, right? You have a second-year Big 12 head coach in Brent Brennan. You've promoted Denny Gonzalez to be the DC. There's a lot of changes going on this year at Arizona, and if a couple things break your way, you could be 6-1. Genuinely, you could be 6-1. It's not like cope to say that. But what I'm saying is, the reason the vibes are so bad is because you're not 6-1, and it doesn't feel like you're a 6-1 team. However, in that locker room, I believe that they think they're a 6-1 team, or at least the quality of a 6-1 team, the quality of a team that can go toe-to-toe with an undefeated team in the Big 12, like a BYU, like they did. And so I fully have faith that they can go in, beat a struggling Colorado team, and then follow that up at home where they've been very strong this year, and beat a sputtering K-State, or not K-State, but KU squad in Tucson. And you mentioned like the bowl eligibility bit as it relates to Arizona, but this game also matters a lot for Colorado,
It
Justin.
does.
They're sitting at what, 4-3 as well? Or
No,
no, they're
3-5.
3-5. Oh yeah, they're 3-5. They're 3 games away from bowl eligibility. My math was backwards there, but 3 games away from bowl eligibility. They really need this one. Do you think that when you mix the road environment and the fact that Colorado really needs it, I know they're coming off a slugfest, a fest against Utah, like you mentioned, but just how much is that gonna? I think, in your opinion, does it play at all into this? Is Colorado thinking about that?
Yeah, and this is the crossroads for Colorado as well. That's what makes this game so interesting because whoever loses this game, I mean, you could kind of guess how the rest of the way is going to go for both sides,
That's
right?
probably the
For
12th best team
Colorado,
in the Big 12. Whoever loses this game.
pretty much. I mean, Dion is dealing with all sorts of health issues right now, right? In addition to the bladder cancer that he had, along with the blood clots in his legs and in his feet. I mean, Dion's going through a lot of personal health problems right now. And I think he's done a nice job with Colorado. I mean, completely changing just how people look at Colorado football, right? And really made Colorado football a show and Colorado a national brand. I mean, heck, we were talking about it on a radio show earlier in the week, Spears and Ali podcast. Check it out. And Kevin, there was a point in time in 2023 where I was going to a Starbucks on Prince and Campbell in Tucson. And this is right near the U of A. I mean, what, 5-minute drive, 8-minute drive up Campbell near the U of A. And near the cashier, they had like a whole barrel full of Colorado water bottles. Like they went on like this like crazy like Linsanity run
They really
for
did.
like a solid like month, 2 months in Deion Sanders' first year because they beat TCU and they beat Nebraska and they're like, oh man, Deion brought his son over. He brought Travis Hunter
They
over,
got Big
who's
X the
playing.
Plug performing at halftime in the
Yeah,
locker room.
you got Lil Wayne, on the sidelines. Dr. J's on the sidelines. Like, he made Colorado like such a spectacle. Heck, I remember that one week where they had both Big Noon and College Game Day there. And they had The Rock and they had all these big people that were there. And like
Was
I
that
said,
when The Rock
Colorado.
was talking about the mana in that field? And he's like, the mana here is crazy. In our culture,
Yes,
we call that energy. The energy here is incredible.
yes. That's what Deion Sanders brought to Boulder. That is how I'm going to remember Deion Sanders as the head coach of Colorado when it's all said and done. And that 2023 season, again, it was just crazy how much they became America's team. And then, they didn't make the bowl. They didn't make a bowl game that year. They were the most exciting team to never make a bowl game. And then the following season, they went to, I think, the Alamo Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. And, Shador and Travis Hunter, they had their last hurrah with the
The
Colorado
fake
Buffalo.
Bolitnikoff.
And, the fake Bolitnikoff. Should have been T-Mac, man. But that was, their last hurrah, but they made a bowl game. And now this year, they might not make a bowl game. So to think about it, how much attention Deion Sanders has brought Colorado and how much he has helped the Big 12 as a football brand, having a personality and a figure like that. And if they don't make a bowl game 2 out of the 3 years that he's there, man, that's going to be brutal. So right now, Deion Sanders and Colorado, they're at the crossroads for this season. And, based off of what I've heard, they're kind of struggling right now. I mean, that locker room is in a very fragile state, but what could bring back that locker room? A spirited victory against the Arizona Wildcats on Saturday. So Arizona, they got to do what they need to do to take care of business and make sure that Colorado isn't confident and make sure they're not feeling themselves that they can actually win this game. But they're good at home. They've beaten Iowa State. They've beaten, some other really good teams. They were really close against Georgia Tech
Yeah.
at the start of the season. So Arizona should win. But again, Colorado's so good at Folsom Field. So, yeah, Saturday, Saturday is going to be a very, very interesting one.
And you mentioned like the Dion of it all, and not just his personal health stuff, but the fact that not going bowling in multiple years out of the 3 that you've been there so far would be quite the indictment on what you're able to do for that program going forward, right? And I do want to talk a little bit more about that. And plus, I want to ask Justin what some of his biggest takeaways were from his Spears and Ali Arizona basketball preview, big mega show that they did very recently. So we'll do all that and more on the other side of this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Please leave a like. Please drink your water. And please, don't go anywhere. Gotta stay hydrated, folks. Gotta stay hydrated. And one of the best ways to do that is to stop by your local Circle K. And you don't really have to look it up on your maps, whether it's Apple, Google, Waze, whatever you use to navigate the city. You don't gotta do that. Just use your eyes. Look up, maybe blow into the wind, see which way it's going, and you're gonna find a Circle K. Throw a rock, you're gonna find a Circle K. They're everywhere. It's your favorite America's thirst stop. And you can join the inner circle, get some deals, get some real deals, meal deal matrix. Does that interest you at all? It interests me a whole lot. 79-cent Polar Pops, 99-cent Frosters, 3 for $5 28-ounce Gatorades, and visit only once and save 10 cents per gallon on a minimum $5 purchase or 5-gallon fill up. Those deals that I just read to you, Inner Circle members only. Sorry, if you're not an Inner Circle member, you cannot partake. But if you want to become an Inner Circle member and get 25 cents off on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents off on every single fill-up after that, and then once you graduate and get the 5 cents off fill-up like me, like Justin, like Damon. I'm sure Damon's using this in Colorado as well. If he's got like a rental or something out there, you got to fill up with Circle K before you return the rental. And that's why you want to save money on all your gas. Join the Inner Circle for free today by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. I love my friends over at Circle K. Where is it? Where is it, Justin? Here it is. The Circle K ducky with the Polar Pop. Come on, focus. Got to bring it close to my forehead. There it is. You see the man, that is beautiful. Shout out to Circle K. Please become a member of the Inner Circle so you can get cool stuff like that as well. And if you are looking for the cheapest prices on the best seats for any event, whether it's a comedy show, a concert, a baseball game if you're in Toronto, a hockey game, soccer game, football game, basketball game, Game Time is your place to be. They have zone deals. They have seat views, lowest price guaranteed, the Game Time ticket coverage. Which one should I talk about today? Today I'm going to talk about zone deals, where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time pick the seats for you. I was talking to Derek on the D-Backs pod about this earlier. How easy would our life be if we had Game Time for other stuff? Because it takes the guesswork out of buying college football tickets, college basketball tickets. You can just give it a section. Say, hey, section 108 is my favorite. Which seat is the best deal today? Game Time will ring that up for you, and you don't got to worry about it. You don't got to guess and be like, oh, I don't know if that's the best deal. I'm weighing one between the other. Game Time's got you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Tap, ticket, go, download the Game Time app today. Do I ask myself the question? Kevin, what time is it? It's game time. Arr, arr, arr. All right, that felt a little weird doing it just on my own, but I'm not on my own anymore. Justin is back for the final segment of our show. Ad free and easy. The rest of the way out here, I do believe. Yes, I am correct. That would have been really, really disappointing if I was like ad free and easy for another 5 minutes. But Justin, you mentioned Dion being at a crossroads. Do you think his time at Colorado is coming up, considering everything he's got going on personally? If specifically if they do not make a bowl game this year, and you don't really have any tangible success outside of like individual stuff for his time at Colorado, do you think his time there could be coming to an end? Could Arizona end the Dion era this weekend?
Oh, are you saying like Dion getting fired?
No. I'm just saying, could they start the real snowball though? Because I really feel like they don't go bowling if they lose to Arizona. You have to win 3 of your last 4, and they don't really have the easiest slate. I know you have West Virginia after Arizona if you're Colorado, but then you play ASU, and they have a lot of injury, but I feel like they're better coached. than
Yeah.
Colorado. And then you have K-State, who's playing their best football they played all year. So could Arizona kind of start the snowball towards the Deion era ending?
Yeah, I think they could. I really do. I think that this could be the one that really kind of just gets the soul out of Colorado, right? And I feel like Colorado. I mean, as long as Deion Sanders wants to be the head coach at Colorado, he's going to be the head coach at Colorado. But he's got so much personal stuff going on. Obviously, stuff that's out of his control because it's his health. Maybe he wants to get to a point now that his sons are no longer playing at Colorado. He coached Shador, coached Shiloh. Both of them are now playing in the NFL. His pretty much adopted son in Travis Hunter won the Heisman, did his thing under his direction, and now he's playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars and playing in the NFL. So I feel like Deion Sanders on a personal level is like, I've done everything that I needed to do. My sons are now no longer here. I've been at Colorado. I've made it much better than when I found it because, Colorado, before Deion Sanders took the job, they were arguably the worst Power Four football program. And he made them so nationally relevant and such an exciting brand. Like, Brett Yormark loves the fact that Deion Sanders is a part of the Big 12 and is a part of that brand. So, with that being said, yes, I do think that potentially we could see Deion Sanders and his time in Colorado coming to an end, but it's going to be on his own terms. Colorado will never get Deion Sanders. When Deion Sanders, when he's no longer the coach of Colorado, it's because he decided that he's no longer the coach.
For better or worse, right? Because like we're talking about, I think, and this is something that I'm not like a Dion hater. I'm not necessarily like a biggest fanboy of Dion. However, I do think he's positive for the conference, like you alluded to with Brett Yormark, and like our favorite bird in the chat, Pigeon says, "Nah, I guarantee that program is making way more money with Prime than they ever were with under any other coach, even if they won more games." But I also know that Dion's a competitor, right? Like if you're like the AD, right? Sure. Like keeping Dion, you're making a ton of money. Eventually, he's probably going to make a bowl game. He's good enough. He knows enough football to make a bowl game, it feels like. Um, but like if you're Dion, at what point does this become just like fruitless for you? Like your health becomes more important to you. Like you said, you're no longer working with your sons and your closest friends and family every single day. At what point does this become like more of a chore if you're just losing every single time you have a big game? I'm interested to see like how this, if Arizona was able to get the W this Saturday, how this could kind of extrapolate forward in the Dion era. Because it's like if Dion leaves, because he's not going to get fired, like you said, if Dion leaves without going bowling and winning a bowl game, like that matters something. Is it one of the biggest like what ifs coaching wise in college football? I know there's some. It's not the biggest because you have some real like national title level of what ifs, but the acclaim, the Linsanity run that we already outlined, if he leaves without winning a notable bowl game, it feels like that is a huge what if.
No doubt. And I've always thought about, what if Deion Sanders went to other places besides Colorado? Because at that time, he
Florida
does
State?
such a Florida State. I mean, that job might be opening up with Mike Norvell, so maybe Florida State sparks something in Deion Sanders. And he's like, hey, I could bring my Deion magic and do it at a place that I called home, at a place that made me into who I am today. I think that'd be perfect for Deion Sanders. And then, there's also some other, SEC jobs that are opening up, right? So I don't know. This coaching carousel is going to get very interesting. But yeah, as far as like Deion Sanders being the what if, yeah, I just always thought, when he would leave Jackson State, it would be to not a place like Colorado. Like when the Colorado rumors started to pick up, and I say this with all due respect to Colorado because like I think that traditionally they've had a better football program than Arizona, right? When you look at all the years put together, I mean, they had some really impressive teams and they have really good tradition. That's why they pack the stadium at Folsom Field, even if they have a bad year, right? I just thought that Deion Sanders in Colorado was just a weird fit. I'm like, man, this guy is, from the South. played at Florida State, went on and became this like really big personality and larger than life figure. Him, and I say that again with all due respect, him at a place like Colorado, it just didn't seem like it was going to be a good fit. And then Colorado became nationally relevant. Like I said, they were so relevant that the Starbucks in Tucson, Arizona was selling Colorado water bottles because they were the hot team in college football at that time.
Objectively a crime, though, it feels like. Regardless of how hot the team is, you can't let that
Yeah.
happen. Not in
Yeah, but
Tucson.
it's Colorado was the hot team that people like. I'll never forget. I'm a millennial, right? So I just turned 30, and
Damn.
when I was, don't make me feel like an unk, man. And
Nah, I'm
so,
also unk. Me and Damon were
um,
talking about it the other day. We're both getting way too close to 30 to not like to still do the jokes. But I'm gonna do the jokes until I'm like gray.
yeah, and I feel like such an old head, when I see the number 67, because I'm like, I know the joke, but I can't do it. I'm just not in that age group anymore. So we had our inside jokes, and I'm gonna let the kids, do their whole 6-7 thing,
You're like 6 or 7 years from really loving the 6-7 joke.
more or less. Um, so I think that going back to Colorado as like being the what if. I thought that the Colorado Buffaloes under Deion Sanders, maybe they could turn into that powerhouse, and they can attract kids to Boulder, Colorado, and with the NIL era, maybe Deion Sanders could really bring some extra juice to Boulder, and we could really see the start of something special in Boulder. So yeah, I think it is one of the biggest what ifs, and yeah, I'm always going to look back on the Deion Sanders era in Colorado, and I'm just going to smile, man. I think all in all, he did his job, man. He made Colorado football relevant, and that's all you can really do.
I totally agree with that. And before we move on to the basketball for the last 10 minutes of this show, Justin, what is your score prediction for Arizona versus Colorado? We won't see you on Friday in the pregame show. Me and Damon will have ours. So I want to get yours today. What is your score prediction?
So I feel like Colorado might end up covering this game. It's like 4.5, right? Last time I checked.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I saw last time I checked as well.
Man, I just have a weird feeling that Colorado's going to end up winning this game. How about Michael Salgado Medina going full Tyler Loop and making a walk-off field goal to have a repeat of the last time Arizona was down there? But no, I'm going to go with Arizona. I'm going to go with the Wildcats to win and cover. I'm going to go, let's say, Arizona 30, Colorado 23. And I think that Arizona, figures out a way to get the run game going, and they expose that like a lot of teams have this year going up against Colorado. And then I think it's going to open up the passing game for Noah Fifita. And I think Arizona, they're going to walk away with a victory. And next week, homecoming, 5 wins. All you got to do is beat the Jayhawks, and you get to 6 wins. Very doable for Arizona. This is a big 2-week stretch for Arizona before you get to really the home stretch of the season where you face some really good teams like a Baylor, who could, fire their head coach, by the time that they face the Arizona Wildcats. And Dave Aranda, he's a guy that's on the hot seat and could be, one of the guys that's in that coaching carousel. And then ASU, it'll be interesting to see how healthy they are at that point of the season. But the last few games, really tough. This game this week against Colorado, next week against Kansas, this is where Arizona's got to take care of business, and we'll see if they're really living the red line.
True. I will go ahead and give mine since you gave yours. I feel like that's only fair. I think Colorado, honestly, I think they have a pretty anemic performance. I think Danny Gonzalez's defense is going to be playing pretty motivated. You're not playing a top tier team in the conference like you were against Houston, like you were against BYU, or even against Iowa State for the time of the season, right, where we thought where Iowa State was. I think Colorado puts up a crisp 17 points. I think Arizona puts up 27. So 27-17. Cats get it done. Totri in the chat, known quote tweeter of one Justin Spears, says the healthiest team in the nation versus Colorado. Maybe the team with the least short-term injuries, maybe. We do have some long-term injuries that were not listed, but yeah, Totri with a little bit
That's amazing.
of jesting there. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat, including Anthony Totri. We do have some score predictions in the chat. Drop yours as well. Justin, last 5 minutes. What was your biggest takeaway? And I do encourage everyone to go check out your basketball preview extravaganza over at Spears and Ali with ESPN Tucson as well. But can you give a little bit of a teaser? What's something you took away from that basketball preview?
Man, it was a basketball bonanza for 2 hours, man. We talked to Arizona head coach Tommy Lloyd. We also spoke to Arizona women's basketball head coach Becky Burke. We did our interviews during Arizona Basketball Media Day when we had Koa Pete and Jaden Bradley. So we were just kind of holding on to those interviews for a little while until the Arizona Basketball Preview Special. So, and then we also had the GOAT, Brian Jeffries, the voice of the Arizona Wildcats. So
the voice of ESPN Plus, some say.
That
he does
too.
every commercial. They have no variety. It's just Brian
Yes.
Jeffries. Wildcat fans, get your tickets. Wildcat fans, make sure. Sorry, continue.
We got Brian Jeffries doing commercials on our station too that run, even though he's not on our station broadcasting games. Brian Jeffries is the man. I love Brian Jeffries. So we had Koa Pete, Jaden Bradley, Tommy Lloyd, Brian Jeffries, and Becky Burke. If you're an Arizona basketball fan, you got to listen to it. And, you know, the men's and women's basketball programs are kind of in different situations, obviously. But when you look at their schedule, the women's basketball team, fairly easy schedule in non-conference play, but we'll see just how easy it is because they just lost to West Texas A&M. They have one last exhibition game tonight at McHale Center. But I think this team in the long run is going to be great under Becky Burke. She's a badass, man. And if you look at her record, she has won, I think, 66% of her games, and she has done it at places like USC Upstate, Embry-Riddle, College of Charleston, and then most recently Buffalo, where she won the WNIT. So she has shown that she can do more with less. And I say this with all due respect to Adia Barnes because, you know, she's the greatest women's basketball coach that Arizona has ever had, right? She did such a great
spelling
job.
coach maybe of all time.
Yeah, that too. But, you know, Adia Barnes, I mean, give her a ton of credit. Arguably the greatest Arizona women's basketball player of all time, and is certainly the greatest Arizona women's basketball coach. But, you know, you look at what Jada Williams said at, I think most recently, whether it was Big 12 Media Day or just talking to reporters, she mentioned toxic culture. And, you know, if you look at Adia Barnes and her record, and just kind of the seasons and how they finished after that Arie McDonald run where they were one basket away from winning a national championship, it was almost like Adia Barnes did less with more because they brought in a bunch of McDonald's All-Americans. They brought in a lot of talent, but it didn't really translate to wins, right? Look at Becky Burke. It's the complete opposite. So it's a change of pace for Arizona. I feel like with the resources that she has, she's really going to make something out of nothing. It might be a little rough in year one. I wouldn't expect, or I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but I think Becky Burke in the long run, she's going to be a superstar. And then Tommy Lloyd and company, you know, for the first time ever, he's relying on freshmen like in the starting lineup. You know, last year, Carter Bryant was a great player, but they're not relying on freshmen like they're going to this year. And so this journey, I mean, they had a tough exhibition game against St. Mary's. They got a tough non-conference schedule starting off with Florida, the defending national champs, and then you're in the best conference in college basketball. This is going to be a very interesting season for this Arizona team, but I think this could be a team that finally breaks through and gets Tommy Lloyd to his first Final Four. It's a potpourri. It's a melting pot of freshmen and also really good returning veteran players. And this roster, I think, is built to win a national championship.
I agree with you. I've been saying all offseason that it feels like Tommy Lloyd finally has all the tools that he's been looking for. Like if he was to build the dream team for himself, it feels like of all the player archetypes, he has each one of those. Right? You have an elite shooter, Anthony DeLorso. You have a veteran point guard returning, in Jaden Bradley, who you trust to run your team and run your offense and defense. You have a couple of true blue chip freshmen in a class of what seems like only blue chip freshmen. The more performances we get from guys like Michael Brown Jr., Cameron Boozer, AJ DeBonsa, like the list goes on and on. It makes sense as to why Koa Pete was underrated at 11 nationally. This class is unbelievable, and it feels like Tommy Lloyd has two of the better players in it, in Braden Burries and Koa Pete. And then you have Tobe Awaka, Mo Krivas. You have a lot of pieces for Tommy Lloyd to work with this year.
How about the Flying Dutchman? Dwayne Aristode, man.
My guy. Aristodians, stand up. All Aristodians right now in your living room, in your office, in the bathroom, in the car, stand up. Maybe not in the car, but put a fist up or something.
I would stand up, but I took off my dress pants. I got basketball shorts on, so I don't want to expose the business on top, party on bottom.
The classic Zoom fit. Yeah. But make sure to check out the basketball bonanza extravaganza over at Spears and Ali with our guy Justin Spears and our friend of the show, Ali, as well. Shout out to the Steelers for Ali. But, Justin, it has been a very fun show having you on. Did you want to shout out anything else? Where can the people find you doing all your great work that you do?
Man, I appreciate you guys, as always, for having me on your great program here. You can check me out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Justin E Sports. Also, check out my work of Arizona football. I will be in Boulder this week covering that game. You can find all my coverage of Arizona football on Tucson.com and also the Wildcaster mobile app. And then we'll be back on Monday from 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Tucson talking about Arizona football against Colorado and previewing that crazy game between Arizona and Florida, which is the first matchup between these two since one of the greatest days in Arizona sports history, 12-15-12, December 15th, 2012. Arizona football coming back to beat Nevada in the New Mexico Bowl, and then they punctuate the day with a game-winning basket by Mark Lyons against the Florida Gators. So it's going to be a fun one Monday in Las Vegas, man. And Kevin, I appreciate you. Thank you as always.
Always appreciate our guy, Justin Spears. Always appreciate each and every one of you Wildcats in the chat for tapping in, for leaving a like, for drinking your water, because I know you guys are staying hydrated during this podcast. And most importantly, for being incredibly pumped up about Arizona basketball returning on a Monday and Arizona football playing on a Saturday. Our life is great. Who's got it better than us? Maybe a couple programs, but not a whole lot. I'll say
nobody. Well, the Jim Harbaugh reference, man. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to all those that celebrate. We'll be back tomorrow, maybe with a special guest, maybe not. Still trying to confirm that, but tap in with us tomorrow. Probably talking basketball, Cam Williams, Florida matchup, Colorado final predictions, and all that. Thank you all for tuning in today. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like. It's your boy Kevin. You can find me at Kevo Posts on Twitter and at Kevo TikToks with 2 S's I found out this past weekend on TikTok as well. You can follow us on the pod at PHNX_Wildcats on Twitter and at AZ Wildcats Pod on TikTok, where we're bringing you dual social coverage right there. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, bear down, and go Cats. Please end the Deion era. I need to see it happen.
We all silly like the mayor.